Okay. Wow, sorry. It is early here I am in Portland, Oregon, and on the west coast of the US. It is a little bit early, but I am just moving a little slow, I guess, this morning. So sorry about that. Thanks for bearing with me. My name is Laurie Pottmeyer, and I am the community lead for Microsoft Teams. So welcome. I'm so excited to be part of this wonderful event and glad that you're all here with me. Okay, we're just going to have to use this because somehow my preview's gone. I'm really excited to be here. I am a little bit, first of all, I just want to acknowledge what's going on in the world. I know that many of us are having a pretty stressful time. And, from the team's point of view, we're really happy that we can work on a product that contributes positively to what all of us in the world are going through. And I think a lot of times, we have things in our own part of the world that we're dealing with. And this is certainly an instance where we're all going through something at the same time, and it's scary, and it's a change. And many of you are working from home that don't usually work from home, and having family there joining you, and I know it's a different time. So I want to acknowledge that and just let you know from Microsoft Teams, we're here to support your remote work, your communication and collaboration during this time. We're certainly moving at a rapid pace. Nobody's really sleeping right now. We're really trying to balance quality and making sure that we can scale to the increased use in Microsoft Teams that happened very quickly, along with innovating and making sure that we're getting new features out the door. So we're definitely trying to strike that balance right now, and I just want to let you know that we're thankful that those of you who are using Teams are using it. Keep the feedback coming. That'll probably be a theme throughout my presentation today, but all my best wishes to all of you who are here, and please stay safe. I said some of you are probably working from home for the first time, or at least on a more frequent basis than you typically might. I work from home 100%, so this is my office. I don't think that you probably believe me. I don't work on a beach, but I am here presenting from my home office today. Like many of you, all of you are joining from your home office. But I usually do work from home, and so I have a little bit of perspective, or a different perspective maybe, because I am full-time working remote, that I need Teams. I need Teams to stay connected. And so what I wanted to share with you today is just kind of the evolution of where I've been in my career as far as technology, and where I started. I've always been doing some sort of connecting with communities in a certain way. I started my career working as a event producer, and so I used to produce large-scale events. This is, many years ago, as you'll see from my slides here in a minute. And then started working at Microsoft. It was about over 15 years ago. And I started as a contractor, now I'm there full time, but I started working on a product called Live Meeting, which many of you may be familiar with, or maybe not, doing web conferencing. And so I've always been in the unified communications space, working on Live Meeting and Link and Skype for Business. And so it's an exciting place where we are today, most definitely. Please connect with me, though. I'd love to hear from you even after today. So the 1990s, let's talk about this real quick. What did things look like? This is when I used to plan events, and I was going into an office every day. I was driving 30 minutes to get to an office, and I was just kind of starting to get going with email. Email was something that everybody had, but people probably didn't know the best practices for using email. We didn't get a lot of spam though. That wasn't really a thing yet. But we had these big boxy computers on our desk, and some of us had laptops, but they were really, really thick and heavy, and you didn't really transport them home much. I did a lot of traveling. I was doing events all over the US, and so I had that big bulky laptop that I would take, but it didn't really do much good because there wasn't like Wi-Fi. We couldn't just connect. There weren't hotspots or anything. You had to make a real concerted effort to be connected and stay connected with the people that you were working with. But also when I was doing events and being out there and talking to people and collaborating on site, I had to make a real effort to sit down and check my emails and be connected. My cell phone was huge. I wore it on my belt. And, we had these enormous walkie-talkies that we used on site to stay connected. So everything was written down. There were scratched papers all over coming out of my pockets. And that's kind of how I did business at that time. And then we moved into the 2000s. We got through Y2K. Everybody survived. That was a big deal. A lot of IT resources spent kind of preparing for that. I started working at Microsoft around, 2003, 2004. And at that time, we had just moved from LCS to OCS. So we had some chat that we were using, but all the meetings were done using live meeting. So we were doing web conferencing. Most of those were structured meeting though, so it wasn't like a day-to-day collaboration. It was more of when you had something big that you wanted to produce, you would set up a live meeting and have an audience, similar to what we're doing today. I started to see more things on the web, but definitely, I still had that desk phone. People would leave me voicemails and I could call into it, which was a big thing in the 90s. Like when you were able to start calling into your voicemail and you didn't have to actually drive 30 minutes into the office, that was a big deal. I look back and, we can look back and laugh at these things, but it was true. But we started to do online meetings, towards the, middle to end of 2000s. We were using Link at the time. And as far as it relates to social, we started to see a lot of the social networks kind of pop up during that time as well. And so you started to see, and there were some in the 90s certainly, but you started to see more of that in the 2000 time frame. And that was the time when people really started kind of connecting on certain topics, and you started to see communities crop up, even in the technology space. I remember I was a recruiter for about a year in the 2000 decade, and during that time, we did everything. Like we sourced our candidates all online, but we also went to meetups to get to know people within the community. But at that time, there were no like online user groups or, at least locally, we didn't have any format to meet each other online or to talk online and kind of keep continuation of conversations. We really had to make an effort to go and show up and participate in person. And for me, I am my job today helps me to be a little bit more extroverted, but I am an introvert. And so for me, doing that was a little bit scary because I had to go walk into a room with people that I didn't know. And that was in person, and that's a little bit scary for people. So I think that things started to evolve though, because then we kind of got into our next phase here where we had more and more gadgets, more and more tools. We're working from different places. We can be much more, we can be remote, but we can also be traveling or on vacation and stay connected. We've got our smartphones, and there's different apps cropping up that we can connect with people on, and we don't have to carry our laptop everywhere. We don't have to plug into a wall anywhere, unless of course it's for power. And even then, we've got devices and tools to help us have battery on a more regular basis as well, which wasn't always the case. And you start to see a more global connection too, because things are online and things are happening, around the world, and people are able to connect, even independent of where they're from. So that's also, something that we started seeing as well. And that was because of technology, right? And so now here we are, 2020, and in that decade before, we were in Skype for Business and Link, and we had started to see how to connect with people on a day-to-day basis, and that was our coworkers. And we were still using, like a C drive to share documentation and things. And then you get here to where we are in 2020, and the things that we had in 1990 that we thought were like amazing at that time, you kind of have to look back and laugh, like, how did I do my job? How did I even function? I had to drive into work. I had to sit down and check my voicemails. And sometimes you had like 15 voicemails, because that was how people connected with you, and your phone rang off the hook. And now my phone never rings. I don't know about many of you, but I get far, far less calls than I ever did before. And so, because things are different now. We have email, and then, from email now, we're starting to see things push into Teams. And Teams has allowed me to not only work from home and be completely effective. And I should also mention that Sharka, my coworker here on my team, is actually on this call as well. And so, hi, Sharka. But Sharka is also working remote, and works from home a lot of time, and then also is in Prague and works from the office some of the time as well. And so our team is dispersed, and we've got people from different parts of the U.S. And around the world. And the team's meeting at large. We've got different offices, large offices, a big one in Prague, as well as in North American Bellevue, Washington, is where the core team is. But we've got people that work on teams all around the world, and we're able to all connect. And it can be at any hour of the day. Sharka and I work very close together, and the nice thing is I can be working during my day, and then I can give her a status on something that we're working on together, and she can pick it up, as we're going through, my middle of the night, and everything's persistent. I don't have to search for a chat. I can reference everything because it's all persistent there. But I'm definitely seeing a decrease in email all up. Video conferencing has really changed things too. People are doing video conferencing for work, and we've been doing that for some time through web conferencing. But now we're seeing so much of it just socially and in our personal lives too. So especially, I know everybody's seen the last month or so with all the different increased video opportunities. It's not just, everybody's doing online education and online working, online meetings for work, but we're also seeing people using video and things for exercising, and everything you can think of is happening on video. In fact, even retailers are starting to do their online videos, and trying to connect with their audiences in an electronic virtual format, which is new to people, and it's interesting to see that pick up as well. But things are definitely changing, and so hopefully I haven't shared too much about my age, but there you have it. Here we are with Microsoft Teams, and for those of you who may not be completely familiar with what Teams is and what it can do, I'll kind of just share a quick background. I think many of you are very, very familiar with Microsoft Teams, but Microsoft Teams allows you the ability to chat. So you can have persistent chats, which is fabulous. And so that can be a group chat. It can be an individual chat where you're chatting one-on-one with your team, another person. And those just stay. And so what you're looking at here is the chat window, and those are sortable. You can filter them and hide them and such. But that's your chat area there. And the other thing is meetings. And so what we're doing today, joining a Teams meeting with the ability to use video and audio, and can record it and communicate with people throughout the meeting as well. And then we have calls. So, for depending on the licensing, whether that's audio with your meetings, or being able to make a call and have a phone number actually where people can dial to you with PSTN calling, that's definitely a nice thing, especially for those of us who travel or are moving around and don't necessarily have a solid desk phone. We just need to be available whenever and wherever, and we can do that via the mobile client and via the desktop client, but all in one space with Teams. Certainly a benefit of Microsoft Teams is the file sharing and collaboration that we have on the back end. No longer do we have to go outside of our collaboration space and look for what the docs that we're working on together, because they're all there, in SharePoint or on the back end of Microsoft Teams. So we can collaborate real time on those documents, which is great. And then, of course, the apps and workflows. So being able to bring the work that you have externally into Microsoft Teams, so that you can bring in your line of business apps and different apps and things that you work on a day-to-day basis, bring that right into Teams and have it be a tab, so that you can not even have to leave Teams if you don't need to. It's all there in one spot. And there's lots of training on Teams if you want to go deeper into that. I want to start talking about, I have 5 things I'd love to share with you. And these are kind of the 5 things that I think have made me more effective in managing my communities. And the first thing is the fact that Teams is a completely open workspace. And I always talk about how with Microsoft Teams, it has really changed my productivity in the sense that, and let me give you an example. When I need to look for who owns a particular feature, in the past, I would have to email my team, somebody on my team that I knew, and say, hey, do you know who the person is that owns private channels, we'll say. Do you know who that is? And then who do I work with on that? And then I would get an email back and they would say, oh, I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I can't help you. And then I'd ask another person, and then they would tell me, oh yeah, I think you should talk to Roshan. And I'd say, great, Roshan's in charge of private channels. Okay, I'll email him. And then I would email him and he'd be on vacation. So I'd get a notification that he had out of office. So then I'd go to his out of office person and I would say, hey, are you available to answer a question? I have a question about XYZ. Oh, well, yeah, that's not really my area of expertise. You should talk to this person. And it was like, it could take a week to 2 weeks even to get an answer on a simple question sometimes. And with Teams, it has completely changed the way that I work in that sense, because now I can just go into my Teams, and this is the actual snapshot of the Microsoft Teams team. But I can go into any one of these channels and I can say, hey, who's the person that works on private channels? And immediately I've got somebody that monitors that channel regularly that's in there, that's where their workspace is. And they can say, oh yeah, you need to talk to Roshan. And then I start typing Roshan's name, and Roshan's out of office is right there, and it tells me exactly who to go to. And then I can look and I can see who his teammates are, and I can immediately right there within that same conversation, I can tag one of them. And I see that a lot, people tagging people, and that just, it increases my productivity. Just a simple task like that, and having the ability to ask a question to a group of people in a channel where everybody is an expert or working on that particular topic. It could be a feature like I have here. It could be a customer if you're working with different customers. Who's the person that works with, XYZ Bank? Oh, well, there's the account team all right there in that channel. So it's definitely increased my productivity in that way. The other thing is just being able to have a fun stuff space, a place where you can just be non-work. And the example here is we don't walk around an office with a file folder in front of our face, never looking around at anyone, right? We don't walk around like that. We walk around the hallways and we make eye contact with people. We say hello, and then we overhear conversations and, oh, your daughter goes to that school, so does my daughter, or your sister plays on that soccer team. Oh, I know somebody that plays there too. I should say football, right, to this audience. Probably many of you play football, not soccer. But it's a way to connect with people in the office by looking at them, hearing them, talking to them. We just get to know them. And we hear about their weekend. You hear about the water cooler conversations. Those conversations are taking place in person because you're in person. But with Teams, because I am remote, I'm still able to have some of those conversations, not just one-on-one, but also here in this example, you can see this is actually a snapshot of the MVP team that I manage. And the MVP team, we have a fun stuff channel, and I would recommend a fun stuff channel in every single team that you have, because that separates your fun and your personal stuff, your congratulations and happy birthdays and new baby, all of those things that you want to talk about and get to know your coworkers on a personal level. You can do that in this space. And that, people who say, well, we need to keep work, when they're in teams, that needs to be work. That's completely fine. I get that. But at the same time, you have to have a human connection. And especially for people that work remote, and probably all of us are experiencing that now, we still need that human connection. And whether it's calling and, you jump on a conference call and you're talking to people for the first couple of minutes about personal things and, hey, how was your weekend? What'd you do? How are you feeling? Everybody's staying safe. You just have those conversations, and having a space in a team to be able to do that is really, really important, and has helped me get to know my MVPs in the program that I run, but also my teammates on a different level. And then the other thing with this open workspace, and I should acknowledge that having an open workspace is scary for people. It's like knowing that you have a bunch of flies on the wall in your meetings. You have people in there that you didn't really invite in there, but they showed up and you don't really know why they're there. Sometimes people get nervous about putting their work out there and having it accessible to everybody. But I will tell you that it has not only helped me. For instance, I show a screenshot here of looking for these conference slides that I participated in a couple of weeks ago. And this was an internal conference at Microsoft, and I couldn't find the slides, and I needed the slides for something, and I couldn't find them, and they weren't in my email. I don't know. I couldn't figure out where they were. And so I just did a search. I just typed in Boost Conference, and all of a sudden, all the things related to Boost Conference came up. It was the conversations that I had about Boost Conference. It was the slides, and these were not slides that I had on my own. It wasn't slides that I had on my desktop. It wasn't slides that I had in a file somewhere. It was slides that were located on somebody's OneDrive, Casey used OneDrive, and they were shared, you know, with all of us, and that's where they were. But had I had to go around and look and figure out who had the latest copy of the deck, you know, that just would have been impossible. So it really helps to have that search capability and be able to find exactly what you need easily in that search, whether that's a person, a conversation, a document, and so on. So private channels. Private channels, I know, are I think some people don't know, you know, well, people wanted private channels so badly, and then we got private channels and people didn't really understand how to use them. And the concern is that everything will become siloed, because the benefit of Microsoft Teams is that everything is out there. You know, we have things open for a reason, because there's that discoverability and you know, feeling like you're in an office environment where you're, you know, you're having access to things. It builds it gives you context on things that you might be working on. So by having private channels, it kind of locks that down, right? Everything becomes more siloed. And so the concern of having lots of private channels is there, and it's real. And, you know, if I talk to anybody, I would say, be real careful of when you use private channels. Yes, they're very useful in certain instances, but they should not be the norm. And I'll tell you, private channels has really helped me with the communities that I run, because I'm able to have all of those back-end conversations that are private to me and a couple of the people that I'm working on, but still enable me to be within the team. So what that means is I can have an event like Microsoft Teams Airlift. This was an event that I held, and Sharka and I did in Bellevue and in Amsterdam. And I have a private channel here for Airlift speakers. And the reason why I didn't put all of the speaker communication in a Microsoft team that we already have is because I wanted to bring our speakers in to the conversation with everybody who was in that Airlift channel, or team rather. So it was important for me to bring that audience over. I wanted to have the conversations that were about the event, specific to the event, when you need to be there, where's the master schedule, the slide template, it was loaded there, all of the resources that they need were located there, all that information that was specific to our presenters was in that private channel, but all the other event information was in all these other channels. So by bringing all of the presenters over, they could start seeing the attendees and communicating with them and being part of the conversations that were there, because that was important to me. I also, the other example is I have a team set up for community leaders, people that are managing events and user groups throughout the world. And I have some private channels for the specific events that I'm working really closely with the team on. So for instance, both CommsVerse, which has now been rescheduled to July at this time, and also the European Collab Summit in Germany. Those two events I'm speaking at and working on. And so that's a place where Sharka and I can be in those channels privately talking to the event organizers about just our little piece of the event. But it's not something that all of the community leaders from all around the world need to necessarily partake in. So that's another place where I use those private channels, and that really helps me stay connected but not have multiple places to go to. Our mobile client is amazing. The mobile client has helped me stay connected. And when I'm, you know, as it relates to the communities that I work with, they are worldwide. They are global. They're, you know, people from everywhere. And it's important for me not to have working hours of 8 to 5. If I worked 8 to 5, my hours, I would never get to interact with anybody else in the world. I wouldn't be here today. Well, I might be here today, but, you know, on a day-to-day basis, I'm not working around the clock, at least not 24 hours. So having the mobile client really enables me to have a work-life balance, but also stay connected to my communities all around the world. And so when I'm sitting in a doctor's office, or when I'm at my kids' practice, or when I'm, taking the dog outside, I can just pull up my cell phone and jump on Teams and see what's going on, whether that's something that I really need to do, or I just kind of want to stay connected and make sure nobody needs anything urgently. Or if it's that I want to make a post, I want to tell somebody happy birthday in their time zone, silly things. But having the mobile client allows me to not have to go down to my office and sit in front of my desk, fire up my computer, and log in. It's just something that's there. And the nice thing is that I can set my notifications and I can put it to sleep. I don't have to remove the app. I can just turn off my notifications and make sure that I'm not interrupted at times I don't want to be interrupted. By no means am I advocating working around the clock, but I am saying that the mobile client really makes it easy. I can also join meetings and present meetings using video as well as presenting my slide. And so that is a really helpful thing as well as it relates to the mobile client. As far as chat goes in the mobile client, it's just the same thing. I can work on my documents, attach documents. I can use emojis and GIFs just like I can in the desktop, and keep my conversations going. And that really helps me. And especially when I'm at events, I don't have to have multiple tools to stay connected to people. I don't have to use my cell phone to text people, have people on, different apps that I'm chatting. I can have everybody in Teams, and that means that my connection or my communications with people are persistent that way, and I have them all there. We love our stickers. All right, so video is so important, and I think probably you're seeing that this last couple of weeks. Not only does video to me, if I don't have my video on, and maybe this is just a personal thing, but when I do not turn on my video, I start to feel like I'm not as engaged, or that I'm talking to a brick wall. But when I have my video on, I feel like I'm actually presenting to a real audience, even if your video isn't on. So video to me helps me be more aware of what I'm doing. It helps me pay attention more when I'm attending a meeting. And it definitely helps me stay connected with an audience, especially when I'm in a collaborative meeting, talking with my team, or talking with a virtual team of people that are working on a project with me. We can stay connected on video, and I can read people's faces. I can tell when they're about to say something, if they say, hey, though pretty soon they'll be able to raise their hand and not have to wave in the video with the raise a hand feature. But definitely, we're able to see each other that way and have a more personal connection. You see these pictures of the dogs. I have my dog here at my feet, and I've given her every treat in the world to make sure that she does not bark at this hour while I'm on this call with you. But I think it's fun that we've seen more people introducing their children, introducing their pets. So with all of us in this situation working from home right now, again, it's that human element, the way to stay connected, and video is a wonderful way to do that. Makes you feel like you're still part of things and staying connected. So think of that as many of you go back to work, hopefully soon, as many of you go back to the office, when you're working with people who are remote, or you're working with people who travel a lot of the time, how important video is. And, it doesn't mean that you have to be perfectly video ready, as people like to be. The important thing is that you have your video on and that you're talking and communicating that way. The bottom right visual here is our increased number of videos there that was released at Enterprise Connect and happening this year. And I think many of you have seen the recent announcement that that's something that we're fast tracking with so many people working from home and and joining via video. We definitely want to improve the experience, and so we are fast tracking that feature, and we'll have more video streams available very, very soon. All right, number 5, I wanted to talk about that human connection a little bit, and we're getting towards the end, so I'm going to kind of cruise through this. But the apps that you can include in Teams are extensive, and that list is growing. And if any of you are developers or interested in developing, or you have people on your team that you work with who are interested in developing, the Microsoft Teams platform has so much potential, because people are looking at Microsoft Teams as a platform and the new way of working, and not wanting to move around between multiple apps and multiple programs on their computer. By bringing the work that you have into Teams, that increases productivity. And it also makes things just more discoverable, which increases productivity because you're saving time. But things that, line of business apps that you have, HR, expense apps. We even have one at Microsoft where you can, we have a large campus, so you can see what they're serving for meals, breakfast and lunch, in all the cafeterias at Microsoft. So it will recognize what building you're in based on your location and tell you what the menu is for that day. And then you can search and say, oh, nothing looks good, I'm going to go to a restaurant. Or you can say, oh, great, today's pizza day, I'm going to go up to the cafeteria. So different apps that you may have that you're running on an intranet, or you have built for your organization, those are things that you now can bring into Teams. And so using the Teams platform to do that and integrate a lot of those things, whether that's something that's specific to your organization or something that is an app used very widely that you want to bring into Teams, definitely look at what's available there. There's all of these and more apps, and those can all be put into a tab so that they are just there in your team as kind of a bookmark, and nobody has to go out and searching for them. And then the other thing is just the human connection that the apps can bring. So for instance, the Icebreaker app is a great app where it matches you with other people in your organization. And that's been a really great way for me to connect our MVPs with one another and with our Microsoft engineering team, because once a week it matches you with another person, and you have the opportunity to chat with them, get to know them, set up a coffee if you're in the same geographical location, or set up a quick meeting and just talk for 15 minutes and get to know each other. And that has been a really nice way. I've talked to even some of the MVPs who I know their names really well, but I don't know them any other way than what they contribute as far as Microsoft Teams to their communities. Having a one-on-one really just helps us get to know each other on a different level. And hey, where do you live? And what do you like to do? It's just kind of a nice way for us to connect. Or oftentimes it'll be more of a conversation around how can I help you and what do you need? What do you do in your role? How can we work together? You of course have the opportunity to opt out of that and turn that off or pause it for a time. But the Icebreaker app is really cool. And that's one of the Microsoft Teams templates. And so that's pretty much plug and play. You can put that and use that in your organization. And then something cool that I wanted to share is just the different things that you can do. One of the PMs, the program managers on the Power Apps team, shared this with me yesterday, and it's not public or anything, but he worked on this app. He created an app. It's like the game Uno, if you're familiar with the card game Uno, and using the different Teams emojis on the cards. And so we've been playing back and forth this this game. And yes, it's not work, but I think I spent like a total of 2 minutes on it yesterday, and it was really fun. So again, just bringing that human connection, whether there's things that you do on a regular basis at work with brackets or different fun things, different events throughout the year, bring that into Teams, whether that's an app or in a fun space. Definitely don't forget to continue doing that. So here we're getting towards the end of our time. I do want to share that Microsoft Teams is absolutely listening to what you're saying. We love getting your feedback. The team that I work on is called Quality and Customer Obsession. And it's really important for Teams engineering to connect with all of you out there who are using Teams, who are deploying Teams, who are working with customers using Teams. We want to know, what do you think? What do you need? How can we help improve the product to improve your work? And we are listening. So definitely using the Microsoft Tech community is one way to ask your questions and stay connected with other people in the community, whether that's a how-to question or sharing your best practices. And then User Voices, where we take all of the team's feedback and we look at that on a regular basis and work with our feature teams to make sure that that gets in there. One other thing I wanted to do is make sure that you're giving back. So today you've joined this call with me, and hopefully you're joining many other sessions that are taking place over the day, and you're getting lots of information. And a lot of people think they don't have anything to share, that they don't have anything necessarily to present, but that's really false, because even if we're just sharing the things that we like about, in my case, Teams, I shared with you some of the things that I like and some of the ways and the practical use cases that I use that. Hopefully you're walking away with just a nugget of information that might spark an idea or give you information. But to me, that's just stuff I love that I'm sharing, and ways that I use the technology that I'm sharing with you. Think about the ways that you use your technology, and that doesn't just mean Teams, but other products that you're using, or even better, problems that you've had, things that have gone sideways, and how you fix those things. What are the experiences that you're having that you can share with other people in the community? And that's really the idea of community, is taking something that you're passionate about or something that you've learned about and sharing that with others, because we all have something to share. So I want to urge all of you after today, for those of you who aren't speaking, join the tech community, ask questions in there, but also answer some from time to time, and better yet, proactively share your experiences in there. If you do have a user group, a local user group in your region, and you want to be part of that community leaders team that I have, and sharing best practices and other benefits like content and whatnot, we have a AKA link, aka.ms Teams UG, and feel free to give me your information. I'll add you to that team and see you in there. There's lots of great resources, training, documentation. We've got a great toolkit that has a ton of templates in there for you to use and customize. Microsoft definitely wants to make resources available to you that you can take for your own organization and brand them and use them internally. So take advantage of those. And then all of the events like Teams Fest and other things that are happening, whether that's down the road in person or virtual events like we're doing today. And I have a feeling you'll see more and more of them pop up, but definitely check out that community events page here in the Microsoft Tech community, which is where all of the event listings for all the products are listed as well. So with that, I think we're at the end of our time, and I may have even gone over a few minutes. Fesa, should we wrap, or do we have time for questions?
Go ahead, ask questions.
Okay.
Anyways, of course you can. There have been sessions that have been going on 5 to 10 minutes over, so it's fine.
Okay. Okay, good. I'm usually the one that goes way over, so I wanted to be respectful of everybody's time. Certainly if you have questions and you aren't asking them today, that's completely fine. You can stay connected with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, but also I am in Teams and happy to have you reach out at any time to me in Microsoft Teams and connect with me there. I'm Laurie P. at Microsoft.com. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. I am the community lead. So like I said, it's my job to connect all of you worldwide who are working with teams with our Teams engineering team. Definitely interested in product feedback and anything that you need help with connecting your local communities with resources to not only train but also have opportunities to provide feedback and whatnot. So definitely connect with me and reach out anytime you have questions. I don't see any questions in the queue there, but if there are any, or if you have any questions for me, feel free to put them in the window there and I'll stick around, or go ahead and speak up. Okay, I always hope silence means I gave you information that you needed.
Of course. Thank you, Laurie. That was a great session.
Great, thanks everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and continue using Teams and let us know how we can improve that experience for you. Very interested in that. So thanks everyone.
Thank you.